So it's time for another gardening week video, and it's funny really because only last week I think I was talking about how great it was to be fully planted with all the spring crops, and now already I'm taking out the spring crops, or the overwintered crops, and planting my early summer crops. So I thought I'd show you just round all the things I'm doing this week in terms of trying to make sure that I get that balance right between an abundant spring and an abundant summer. And it's sometimes a little bit tricky to manage, but anyway, I hope you'll find it useful. So I'm going to start off in the polytunnel, and I just took out the last kind of scratty lettuces and some really nice salad onions, and I'm not ready to use those salad onions yet, so I've just kind of replanted them in a spare pot, and they'll be fine in that for a week. And in their place I put one more row of celery here and some summer leeks, and so I'm pretty pleased with these. There's only 3 leeks to a module, so they should grow quite nicely. So there's only 12 leeks there, and I've done some more down at the other end of the polytunnel, and again sort of 4 there. So that was a start. That'll last us for a few weeks in summer. I've only got 9 celery plants in here, and that is enough for kind of a cut and come again harvest for Debbie and I and a few friends who like celery as well. You do need to keep these young plants ideally frost free, so we are actually going to have a frost tonight, so I will just pop this fleece over them just to keep them above freezing. And the rest of the polytunnel's looking really neat now, so I've got all this garlic interplanted with these lettuces. I've got all these early onions down the back here. These are our first harvest of onions. We'll probably be harvesting these sort of middle to the end of April, I guess, progressively. They'll all certainly be out of here by early May. And then I've got my little main crop onions down here, and then this area here, as I said, is progressively going to be leeks. So this is kind of my allium experiment this year to see how well these all do in here. So this is my oldest surviving spinach bed, and I took out half of the plants and put parsnips in the gaps, like these gaps here, and I did the same in this bed. And 2 weeks ago, I think, I planted my little chitted parsnip seeds, and they're all coming up, so I'm really happy to see that. And this week I finished taking out the spinach, and so I planted in my Zebrun onions that I started 4th of February, and they're a little bit little, but they're going to be fine in here. They're going to love the protection of this coal frame. So this is my second oldest spinach bed, and I started harvesting at the back of here and putting in beetroot for summer, and you can see them better at the back there. And I just took the whole tops off these spinach, which makes it really nice and quick to harvest. And in 2 weeks time, maybe 2 weeks time, I think, maybe 3 weeks, I will take all these spinach plants out, and I'm going to put carrots in, and these will be my first outdoor carrots. The indoor carrots are doing quite nicely, so I've got loads of tubs of those. This is my youngest spinach bed, and it's still going a bit wild now. I harvested it yesterday, and it's still pretty abundant, and so I'm starting to replant it because obviously I've got a lot of spinach, I don't need all this. So I've got beetroot again down the back there, and I've got little calabreses in here, and this is going to be a pepper bed, and this will be the last pepper bed that I plant, so it'll probably be about the 3rd week in May or something along those lines, and that should be just enough time for this calabrese. So I'm also really busy sowing a lot of seeds. I'm always sowing a lot of seeds, but at this time of year I'm particularly busy with it, and in part that's because I'm doing so many more varieties of things this year, but in smaller quantities, partly because a lot of the salad crops, for example, that's particularly the lettuces, I'm doing a lot more harvesting of whole heads, and I'm doing that really to save my knees and my back, wear and tear on my knees and my back. And last year, and to some extent in previous years, I found that all that time sort of squatting down, harvesting individual leaves off lettuces, or bending down, harvesting individual leaves in the kind of quantities that I do, it's just too much hard work. I don't want to do it anymore. So I don't mind doing it a little bit in winter and at other certain times of year when it just makes sense. Yeah, in summer I'm trying to avoid it now. And I've also just started preparing the tubs for the main crop potatoes. I don't put my main crop potatoes in until around about the 17th of April. I don't know why I say the 17th, the middle of April anyway. And that's just because I don't really like messing around and don't really have enough fleece to cover them all. And I certainly don't want to be sort of lugging them around in pots and putting them in the garage and things like that. So I really don't want the potatoes kind of breaking surface until, you know, quite a way on in May. And by then there's a pretty good chance that we're going to be frost free. And obviously if they do get a frost, they will kind of recover at that stage as well, as long as they're not too far on. But my other potatoes are doing pretty well. I've got 16 tubs of early potatoes, and some of those are first earlies and some of those are second earlies, and they're all growing either in this polytunnel with me now, or they're at home on the patio. But if there is a frost, I can, you know, there's only a few tubs of them, I can easily just move them inside or put them in the garage or something. So I'm pretty well sorted with potatoes this year, and I'm doing it easier this year with potatoes as well. I'm not doing anywhere near as many, and I'm doing a few more in the ground, and I'm doing some unusual timings, which I'll talk about later in another video. And I've also been working pretty hard in the back garden, and when I say pretty hard, I mean half a day of work. It kind of amazes me really that to get my plot on the allotment sort of ready for spring replanting takes me nearly a month's work, you know, 1 or 2 hours a day sort of thing. To do the garden, the same thing in the garden, takes me half a day. And I think it's just because all the infrastructure in the garden, it's all fixed. You know, so there's no wood chip paths or anything like that. It's all paving slabs everywhere. You know, everything's easy to access. There's no covers to move around. You know, there's no weeding to do. There's almost no weeds in the kitchen garden. Yeah, it's just so much easier than an allotment. But yeah, I love the allotment as well, but I do love the kind of kitchen garden just for ease of use. Yeah, so I've been I know I just said there's no weeds, but you know, obviously there's always a few weeds. I've weeded everything. I've cut back everything that's looking a bit dodgy. I've prepared a whole load of beds and replanted them. I've got lettuces. I've got red pak choi. I've got Mikado spinach, onions, shallots, peas, and I've got something else in. If I can only remember it, my memory is getting pretty grotty now. Oh, just kind of, yeah, some spare lettuces, some spare radishes and things like that. And one of the things I've done this planting season, you know, this for the last month or so, is I've done a lot of inside-outside plantings so that we can look at the comparison in growth rates. And I think that's going to be quite interesting. So almost everywhere where I've planted something outside in the kitchen garden under fleece, I've also saved a few plants and put them either under low tunnels or in this polytunnel so that we can check back in a month or so's time and see if there's any difference. So I think that's pretty much me done with everything that I've done this week. I'm going on holiday, so there won't be that much more gardening news. All that's going to be left is the harvest, so let's take a look at that. So I'm kind of always taken by surprise, a bit shocked really, when the garden just goes crazy. It's like absolutely crazy, and I can kind of pick everything that I think is ready, you know, one week, and I almost clear a bed, you know, and then the next week it's all full again, and just can't keep up with it. And that's especially true of the spinach, but not just the spinach at the moment, like just all the brassicas going crazy, the salad onions, the lettuces finally. Anyway, I'll take you quickly through it, and I'll do a proper harvest video for this month as well, this week sometime. So, right at the back, spinach, loads of spinach. I'm just clearing the winter spinach beds, so there's more spinach than expected, but all of that was picked from a bed that I cleared last week and didn't get around to replanting. So it's just madness really. Winter squash, crown prince, still got quite a few yak on, still in great condition actually, the yak on. Beetroot obviously, and loads of garlic, really good garlic this year, much better than last year. Bacon potatoes, they're okay, a little bit of scab on them as you can see, but still not so bad for this time of year. That's more than can be said though for the carrots. The carrots are looking a bit scrappy now. I mean, some of them are okay, like the ones I put at the top, but the ones at the bottom are more a bit holed like this, so you have to kind of cut them up a little bit. But they still taste really good. There is a sign that some of them are starting to go to seed, so we will have to eat them fairly quickly. More spinach, first calabrese of the year, which is always nice, and purple sprouting broccoli, which is absolutely gorgeous. And we've got more purple sprouting broccoli over there, and sort of more lower down underneath here, and you know, just loads. Colettes, I don't know, we might have one more pick of the colettes, but they're really nice. And obviously if you don't actually get to pick them when they're this size, they just grow into a flower stalk with loads of lovely leaves, so just like Brussels sprouts do. So there's absolutely no reason to take them out the ground early. So I will start picking, you know, just collect leaves pretty soon. Absolutely gorgeous red kitten spinach, and we've got, that's all double deckered, so there's 4 tubs of those. Yeah, I've got loads and loads of this now. So this is tatsoi, absolutely gorgeous stuff, and yeah, I really like it. And some of that is starting to go to seed now, so again I'm kind of picking that as fast as I can, and my new crop is coming on strong, so hopefully by the time I've cleared those beds, the new beds will be ready. And yeah, gorgeous brassicas at this time of year when they start to go to seed, and they just put that last little bit of a flush of growth into the leaves, and then pretty much, you know, in a week, probably 2 or 3 weeks, they'll stop growing new leaf, and all attention will sort of go into the flowers. You know, we had a lot of problems with the onions. I think we've got about 20 shallots left and maybe 10 red onions, but I was away on holiday last week, and when we came back I was just shocked at the progress of the onions, the overwintered onions. So by the time we finish with these shallots and onions, I think we will have green onions again to pick, so that's brilliant. Leeks still pretty good, quite a few leeks left. Cabbages, last of the parsnips though, so that is it for parsnips now until August, and maybe July for some little ones. Field beans are doing nicely. Chard, starting to pick the chard, and then we're just finishing now really with the lamb's lettuce. I've got a couple of boxes of that. It's starting to go to seed. You can kind of see when it starts to kind of elongate like these. Let me just see if I can get one. The leaves kind of start raising up like that, rather than being sort of flat to the ground. That's when it's starting to go to seed, and the eating quality reduces. So there's not a lot of point sort of leaving it. Just pick it and eat it now. Claytonia, maybe one more pick of the Claytonia. I'll need the bed soon. I need it in May, so maybe 2 or 3 picks. but that is also starting to flower now, and it drops a huge amount of seed. So unless you want to grow Claytonia in the same bed next year and also be weeding it out all through summer, now's the time to take it out. And salad onions, yeah, look at those, you know, absolutely gorgeous. And little salad carrots, looking lovely. So they're the pick of the carrots really, and radishes, and the first pick of asparagus, and little baby leaf spinach to contrast, you know, with the cooking leaf spinach. And one of my favourites in the salads, this absolutely beautiful Asian greens. This is red pak choy, I think, or red stem pak choy, I can't remember which one it is. And this is more tatsoi. So that is great. And we're finally in kind of lettuce abundance. So that's taken a while. But now the leaf quality is gorgeous. You know, the leaves are thick and crispy, and absolutely, it's great to be back. So I don't now need so much of the Claytonia and the lamb's lettuce and the Asian greens and things like that and the spinach to fill out the salads. We just still have them just because they're lovely. So I'm going to make up those salads, and then we'll get all the veg packed. So I hope you like this quick video. My name's Steve, this is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.